Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order for the committee as a whole, Human Resources and Education, for July 11, 2013. Roll call, please, Mrs. Guerrero.
Mr. Hannigan. Mrs. Hines.
Here.
Mr. Derman.
Here.
Mr. Wu.
Here.
Mr. Harrell.
Here.
Mrs. Tipton.
Here.
Mr. Jeter.
Here.
Mrs. Seeley.
Here.
Mr. Betancourt. Mr. Womack.
Here.
Mr. Payne.
Here.
Mr. Lamar.
Here.
Mr. Alfred.
Here.
Mrs. Belisario. Here. Oh, and Mrs. Muller.
Present. It's okay. Would you please stand for the invocation and the pledge led by Mr. Alfred?
Dear Heavenly Father, bless each and every one of us here tonight. Also, all of our students and employees, make sure that they have a safe summer and be ready to return next month. Through Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there has been no persons requesting time on the agenda. Before we move to the approval of the minutes, I just wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Belisario for chairing the meeting for me last month while I was out. Thank you. Okay, next we have approval of the minutes for the committee as a whole meeting held on June 6, 2012. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and seconded. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And I abstain. All those abstain? Oh, I abstain because I wasn't here. Motion carries. Mrs. Araby, you are next. We are going to have the introduction of the Virtual Program Initiative by Mrs. Araby. All yours.
Okay, good evening. I'm here tonight to present to you or give you even additional information and update on our virtual program. We spoke about it earlier this year as far as in the initial planning, and so now we're here to give you an update and to share with you how exciting this is going to be for our school system. First of all, the purpose. What is the purpose of a virtual program? Certainly the educational shift to meet the needs of our community, as well as the flexibility to meet the needs of our students. You may remember at the beginning of this past school year, our MFP report included transfer out funds for students in our community receiving services outside of our public school system. Here you can see that the Connections Academy, its first year in Louisiana, had 500 students with a waiting list. The second year, it had 1,000 students with a waiting list. Also, we know that there are those students who are not enrolled in our St. Tammany Parish schools who may be in homeschooled within our parish. We know that reported to the state there are 1,200 registered homeschooled children. Now, we also know that there are some children that are being homeschooled that are not registered through the state. So we know that looking at some of the students in our community, that there certainly is a need to be on top of this and making a shift to have our virtual program. We also remember with our MFP that we had some of those transfer out students who were attending other schools and had other needs for their students. So we know that with this virtual program, it may be something that these families would consider. So let's look a little bit at the process. You will remember that we began our A-Cube virtual program, and we began this with credit recovery, and that was just for our students who were really trying to catch up and to get those courses. That was its initial purpose. Well, soon after the success of this, we did add it to our summer program. And so rather than a traditional summer school, we have served our summer school students through the A-Cube Virtual Academy. And then over the past 2 or 3 years, we have actually opened it up to new credit. We have our students who are very busy in high school who may have the talented art, talented music, and some of those internships that weren't allowing them to take all of the courses they needed during the school day. So those students, too, have joined our A-Cube virtual program. This program has grown to more than 70 courses and as many as 700 units a semester. And just this summer alone, we have close to 700 students enrolled in our virtual program. Over the past 2 years, we have researched and visited other programs, and we have been looking into how could we certainly stay on top with our online A-Cube Virtual Academy, and how can we expand it and to extend it outside of just this groups of students. We looked at other districts, and you may see here that I'm showing you St. James, Bossier, Ascension, Vermilion, and Zachary. And all of those districts have virtual programs of some sort, and some of them even have virtual schools. Regina and Denise have been very busy as they actually visited St. James Parish and looked at their program and got additional information for us. So with this, it became necessary for us to look at what would our program be for the curriculum. And so there was a lot of questioning about why would we have to write an RFP. First of all, when you look at what you're going to spend, if it exceeds a certain amount, you have to write an RFP for that, and that is the law. So that was certainly the purpose for writing an RFP. We know that when we were writing the RFP, that we had to have the criteria, what was necessary, what were we looking at as a school system, some of those important things that needed to be included in the RFP. Foremost and out front would be the safety of our student data. We know that this is of the utmost, and we know that Lewis keeps us all in check with this and anything that we have going on, and making sure that our student data is very safe. So that was one of the foremost for our RFP criteria. The next thing was we wanted our teachers to be the ones involved in administering the subjects within our virtual program. Many of the companies have their teachers that they want involved with their curriculum. And also of essential and importance is the innovativeness and being aligned to the curriculum. Because remember, these students are also going to be involved. If they're an 8th grader, they too will have to take the 8th grade LEAP test. So we need to make sure that it is aligned. And then, of course, the cost always does come into effect, and it would be with the cost effectiveness. If it was too costly, then it wouldn't be something that we could consider for this particular program. So with all of these in mind, we did submit, we had an RFP, and we actually had 8 companies who submitted proposals. Out of those 8 companies, 2 of them met the actual needs that we felt like followed the primary criteria: safety, our teachers, the innovativeness, and the last thing being the cost. Of the 2 that did meet the criteria, the cost was not going to be effective in us being able to administer or to proceed with this program. Upon getting that news, we did have a committee meeting, And at that committee meeting, this was all reviewed and came to light. We left the room, and we had been in contact with our district collaborative team led by Jeffrey Hand. And you remember that this is certainly the organization that we are a part of. In calling Jeffrey Hand, we received great news that over the last 6 weeks that Odyssey Ware had joined this co-op, and because of that, we could get a very discounted cost for this program. There are 46 to 47 districts that now are a part of this co-op. With that, Odyssey Ware was something not totally new to us because, as you may have seen within our credit recovery program, that is actually the program that we used for our students for about 2 years, 6 years ago. So with that, we have done more research, and because of it being cost effective, as well as meeting the safety for our students' data, being aligned to the curriculum, and yes, able for us to use our own teachers. We're very excited about that news. So with that, here you're looking at the framework for this pilot plan for virtual program. You're looking at opening it up and beginning it with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And you may ask, why are the high school students not included in this, and why are we beginning with 6th, 7th, and 8th? When you get to the high school, if you were to have a homeschooler come on board in 10th grade, we have to make sure that the proficiency tests are given, that the Carnegie units that they do believe that they have earned through another way of being homeschooled would all meet the qualifications. So this is going to give us an opportunity to pilot and to start small with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Our plan is to hopefully have about 200 students at the beginning. It would be about 25 students per block, also recognizing that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is elementary, so that means the elementary certification fits into this very well with highly qualified teachers. It would open with 16 part-time teachers, and then these teachers would have their blocks of instruction, math and science, and then ELA and social studies, which is a typical elementary block of subjects. So our timeline preliminary is we did meet with our committee on June 26th. We met and spoke with some of them even afterwards when we received the additional news from our co-op organization. We have our committee as a whole meeting tonight, which is certainly more information. And then, as always, we're always open to speak with you, of course, questions tonight, but then even after you get back to your homes and you think about it further, we'll be open for additional questions. We would have the online registration ready for our students in August. It would all be an online enrollment registration form. And then the first day of school would be after Labor Day. Remember, this is not the typical traditional school day. You don't have to worry about your seat time. These students will be involved in modules that will be expected to be completed at particular points in time during the semester. We will certainly monitor and then look at the progress of the students at the end of September, remembering that these will be our teachers who will be assisting us with this, so as facilitators, they'll be very involved. Also, I'd like to recognize tonight in our audience that you see Karen DeVilliers, who has been over our A-Cube Virtual Academy, and Kara Berry, who's going to be the person who has been very helpful in working with us in our virtual program. Kara's been very involved with our homebound services as well as our 504, and we do see that this is going to have a great place to help us service those students as well. I want to thank them because they've been hard at work with the research, kind of keeping us up on track as far as just bringing different things to our attention through their research that maybe we have not found on our own. So here you see a logo, And this is what we would like to call our virtual program, the online student learning. And our students that would be enrolled would be our e-students. Our e-students public in our public schools here in St. Tammany Parish, and that will have them stand out as they would be even registered as an e-student within our public schools. We're real excited, we're ready to move forward, and I think our plan is just what we need for our community here in St. Tammany Parish. And now I'll be ready for any questions that you may have.
Mr. Alford.
Thank you. Mrs. Araby, I just had one question. This is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. How do they take the LEAP test?
Well, it would be just, even today, we can have students within homeschooling that can come in and take our LEAP test. We have different sites
Do they have to
set
come
up.
in? They don't do it online. They have to come in.
No, it would have to, they'd have to come in. That's correct.
And you would give them what school they would have to go to in order to take it.
Actually, we usually have 2 district sites set up. On occasion, St. Tammany Junior High has been a site where they have taken it, and we've also had them set up at the Ed Center. So we have different locations set up centrally within our parish.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Belisario.
Thank you so much. I can see a lot of work went into this. I have some questions about the A-Cubed program. Mostly, students who would sign up for that would just be taking one course. Was that the most likely?
Right, for the A-Cube, that is not really a full-time student. That's either a student who is still maybe trying to catch up with their peers, a student who may be repeating a course, delete, repeat, and it could be, as I said within the presentation, a student who maybe their semester is filled with talented art or any of those other subjects, or even an internship through the technical college. And so this gives them an opportunity to take some of those courses that are offered.
So we wouldn't be doing away with that?
We would what now?
We would not be doing away with that?
No, ma'am. It's going to have its own purpose. Absolutely not.
Do you have an approximate cost of the curriculum that you might get from the co-op, the Odyssey Ware?
The cost of the curriculum, it is so amazing. It's $20 per student.
Okay.
And that is only offered through the co-op. They're very clear on this, that if you're a member of the co-op, you can have this offering. Just this afternoon, I know that Denise and Regina had a webinar, and they reviewed the curriculum, and they're very pleased with what they saw.
Good. And what would be the approximate cost for the 16 teachers? I guess they would be contracted teachers?
What would be the cost of what?
The 16 teachers?
The 16 teachers, what we have set up right now is we're going to use some of our full-time homebound teachers, so
okay.
they are already scheduled. And then we will have some part-time teachers, and they will be paid accordingly per student. And we're looking at that maybe being about $2,500 a semester based on the number of the students that they have.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Derman.
Thank you, Ms. Mullet. Ms. Araby, very impressive. I guess I'm kind of following on the lines of Ms. Belisario's questions. When you look at the cost overall, based on what we were losing when these students were signing up on another virtual school or transferring out, I mean, if we say that we're saving X number of dollars in receiving the state funding, what versus the cost? Where in relationship of the total program do you estimate this?
Okay.
Strictly an estimate.
What we're approximately estimating as far as money that we will need to spend, as far as some of the setup, the hardware, the $20 per student, as well as the teachers, any additional part-time teachers that we may hire. I believe we're looking at that cost might be around $300,000. And then remembering we would get MFP money for each of those 200 students. And so at the end of the time, we could look at this being as much as $1 million to $1.5 million in additional revenues. But I also think it's very important to remember that this is a pilot program at the beginning stages, and we're hopeful for 200 students. But as you saw the numbers for the Connections Academy, that number is only growing. And we know that we have received calls from parents who might be on waiting lists for Connections, and they're anxiously awaiting to see if they'll be able to participate in our program.
And a follow-up question in regards to that is, students that are going to be eligible for this is strictly St. Tammany Parish public schools or residents of St. Tammany or outside of St.
At this
Tammany?
point in time, we're going to hold it to St. Tammany Parish residents. But no, it just wouldn't be for public schools, because remember, we want to get those homeschoolers or any of our students who are maybe
Right.
registered at the Connections Academy.
I think it's a great idea. I really do, because I mean, we're supplying a need that's there, and that's our forte, is to think outside the box and be aggressive to doing this. And you know, I think it's a great deal, because it may even get them back into our own classrooms once they, you know, see the St. Tammany way of doing things. So I applaud y'all on this. Thank you.
Right.
You know, when we had looked at our transfers out from last year, out of the 300 transfers out of our system, 200 of those 300 were taking virtual classes somewhere else. So we just thought this is an opportunity, I think, in St. Tammany Parish, that if parents have an option to put their child in a virtual academy or virtual school that's run by our school system, that they're going to, I think they'll take advantage of that. And that's certainly our goal. We, you know, as we said, we want every student we can have in St. Tammany Parish to be in our public school system. And this is just another new progressive way to meet the needs of a changing population of students. And then I think it's exciting too for the opportunity for homeschool students. You know, homeschool students in the past were taught a little differently than homeschool students are taught currently. And I think this new program will certainly be attractive to homeschool parents that will see the opportunity for their child getting a diploma from our school system.
And I totally agree with that, Mr. Folsom. I think the fact that it's, you know, it's even better than a break-even proposition when you look at it from a financial standpoint for us. So I mean, it's even more intriguing to go this route because of what we can supply, you know, to the students of St. Tammany and as well as their parents. So I really am excited about these possibilities. Thank y'all.
Mrs. Hines.
Ms. Araby, you seem to not be sure whether 200, we would get 200, but I see it as that we might have a problem, and I'm assuming it's on a first-come, first-served basis.
Right. That's the way we will begin with the open registration. I know we're going to count on Meredith's department, and I do have to say the logo in that piece, the last slide that you saw, that was through Angela Davison and Meredith's department that put that together. And I do believe that once this gets out, once it's on our website, and of course this online student learning program will have its own site as well for people to be able to go to and get information. I really do believe that it will grow.
Will you keep us informed on that? You know, the number?
What?
Will you keep us informed on the
Yes.
number?
Sure,
of
we'll
students?
give you
Yes, ma'am.
updates as we go
Yes,
through.
ma'am, definitely.
Thank
We'll
you.
definitely be excited to give you an update in October.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Loop.
I want to thank you, Ms. Abbott, for allowing me to be on that committee. That once again, we saw St. Tammany moving forward and being a leader in the state. It was just a wonderful experience. I want to thank you for that.
Okay. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Loop as well as Ms. Mullett. She was on that committee. And when you're sitting around the table and you're getting input from others, it was very important for us to be good listeners and to really hear what you had to say. And I really do think it moved us to a different level where we're going to be very pleased at the end. So thank you.
I wanted to say that too. I mean, I think this is a perfect example of how a committee can work. You know, what we started with and the finished product looked totally different, and that's a good thing. And it became a part because of the, you know, the work of Cheryl and her people as well as you guys that were on the committee. And I think, you know, it shows that we all have opinions, we all have something we bring to the table, and I think the finished product is going to be something that everybody's going to be proud of because of everybody's working together.
Thank you.
Mr. Harrell.
I just wanted to thank you for doing this. I think it's a great opportunity for us to serve the St. Tammany Parish citizens, and hopefully it will grow beyond St. Tammany Parish.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Hines.
And I just wanted to mention that because of our membership in this district co-op, not only will we get the cost advantage, it will make it cost effective for us, but this is a way that we'll be able to go back to that group, which now has 47 members, and talk about a successful, hopefully, program that we've initiated here in St. Tammany, and we'll be able to share that with the rest of the state.
Okay. And I just want to close by saying I too really enjoyed being asked to be on that committee. I learned a lot from all of you as far as curriculum, and I thought it was just a win-win, great team effort that we happened to, fall upon this co-op at the same time you're looking at this virtual program, and the vendors were so much more, and we were able to bring this co-op in and do it our way, the St. Tammany way, with our teachers and our data. So thank you. Well, there be no further business. I'm going to adjourn this meeting tonight.
Mr. Booth?
Here.
Mr. Howard?
Here.
Mrs. Tipton? Here. Mr. Jeter?
Here.
Mrs. Sealy? Here. Mrs. Muller? Mr. Bettencourt? Mr. Womack?
Here.
Mr. Payne?
Here.
Mr. Lamar? Mr. Alford?
Here.
Mrs. Belisario? Here.
Thank you very much. We're going to dispense with the invocation and the pledge. I see no one signed up for requesting time on the agenda. So we're going to move straight to approval of the minutes for committee as a whole meeting held June 6, 2013. Do I hear a motion, please? Moved by Ms. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Panks. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions.
One. I wasn't here.
Okay, Ms. Muller abstains. Thank you. Moving on to the administrative section of the meeting, Mr. Jabbia.
Thank you, Mr. Derman. Our first item on the agenda is review and recommendation of insurance for property, primary and excess, liability, crime, boiler and machinery, workers' compensation, and NFIP. In your packet, you should have a memo from me to Mr. Foss talking about our property insurance and general liability. The risk management department at my direction solicited quotations through a request for proposals. There were 3 firms that picked up packets. 2 of those firms submitted proposals. Those 2 firms being Arthur J. Gallagher of Baton Rouge, Risk Services, and John W. Desoy of Mandeville. Those were the only 2 that submitted proposals. I want to give you just a little bit of background and tell you that the reason we're coming to this committee at this late of time, we normally come in June, is that there was a bill in the legislature and we were waiting to see the outcome of that bill that had to do with what's called admitted and non-admitted insurance companies, where admitted companies would be those companies that have filed with the Insurance Commission of Louisiana, and the non-admitted of those that were not filed with the Louisiana Insurance Committee. We've never been able to accept non-admitted companies, so we wanted to see the outcome of this bill. The bill did pass through the legislature and Governor Jindal signed it. The good news is that there's 2 parts of this good news. The first part being is that we still went with all admitted carriers, but what happened was with the bill allowing us to use non-admitted, created competition with the admitted carriers, which we got better proposals. So I think it was twofold that we waited, one to see the bill, and the other one is that we got good information back from our 2 people that submitted proposals. We reviewed those proposals with the help of Mr. Derman, who's has some insurance background. People tell me anyway he does. He helped Mr. Gaspard in reviewing the RFPs, and we have agreed to grant these two, with the board's permission, for the auto, the general liability, the educational legal coverage to Arthur J. Gallagher, and the property insurance to John W. Dusoy, the employee blanket crime policy to Gallagher, Baller and Machinery to Mr. Dusoy, NFIP to Mr. Dusoy, officials bond to Mr. Dusoy, and workers' comp with 650 SIR. Self-insured retention last year, that was $750,000, so this is a better deal for us. That goes to Mr. Gallagher. Total price being $1.98 million, $235.59, which saves us a grand total of $418,034.38. I don't think we've ever come to you with an insurance proposal where we saved on premiums and we have just as good or better coverage than we had in the past. So I want to thank Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Dusoy for their proposals, and we're recommending to the board that you accept this proposal. Mr. Gaspard is here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jabby. Do I hear a motion from the board? Moved by Mr. Alford, seconded by Mr. Jeter. Any discussion or questions from board members? Seeing none. Any discussion or questions from the public? Seeing none. Please vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So ordered.
Mr. Dermott, if I could, tonight, in a meeting after this meeting will be an official full board meeting with the need to approve this in official board because of the stipulation of what Mr. Javier stated. The late time frame that we waited for was certainly a good gamble to take and certainly paid off huge dividends for our school system. So tonight we'll have a special board meeting so that we can approve this finally, and then we can continue our coverage uninterrupted with that. And that's the need for the special board meeting tonight for that purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Foles.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Foles. Mr. Jabbia, moving on to the...
Yes, sir. The next item is the annual uniform evaluation report that's in your packet. Ms. Woosner is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from board members? Any questions from the public? Okay, moving on.
Our next report is our monthly maintenance and custodial report. Mr. Richmond and his staff is here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for maintenance? I've already talked to him earlier, so I'm good. Seeing none, moving on, Mr. Javi.
Our monthly risk management report, Mr. Gaspard is here with any questions.
Any questions from board members, public? Seeing none, moving on.
And our monthly transportation report, Ms. Buell and Ms. Masters are here. Ms. Amy is out. And just one note for you that on July 17th, we will be at Fountainblue High School giving out packets for all of our bus drivers with all their route information, and we'll give that out on July 17th at Fountainblue High School.
Mr. Jabby, when is the in-service for our bus drivers? Is that?
October the 3rd or something like that? I forgot the date. It's in October.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if it was during the summer or if it was actually
No, it's actually that last day of the 9 weeks at Professional Development Day.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from board members? Seeing none, I guess you're through, huh?
Thank you, Mr. Dermott. Appreciate it.
Excellent job, Mr. Javi.
Thank you.
Moving on to construction, Ms. Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Dermott. We have several projects that were summer projects to ask for substantial completion tonight. The first one is that we recommend acceptance of Slidell High School gym floor replacement as substantially complete, subject to architect's recommendations, submission of all regulatory requirements, and approval of Superintendent Foles' School Board Project number 1308.
I have a motion.
I move.
Moved by Ms. Mullett, seconded by Mr. Alford. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So ordered.
Second recommendation, we recommend acceptance of Slidell High School re-roofing of classroom wings Phase 1 as substantially complete, subject to architect's recommendations, submission of all regulatory requirements, and approval of Superintendent Foles, School Board Project Number 1302.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, John, you made a motion, Ray seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So ordered.
We recommend acceptance of Fifth Ward Junior High School re-roofing of main building, kindergarten wing, and walkways as substantially complete, subject to architect's recommendations, submission of all regulatory requirements, and approval of Superintendent Foles, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project Number 0812.5.
So moved. Second.
Seconded by, moved by Mr. Harrell, seconded by Mr. Loop. Any questions from board members? Any questions from the public? Thank you, Harry. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And abstentions, so ordered.
Item 4, we recommend acceptance of Carolyn Park Middle School re-roofing of classroom wings as substantially complete, subject to architect's recommendations, submission of all regulatory requirements, and approval of Superintendent Foles, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project Number 1304.
Moved by Ms. Seeley,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Mullet. Any comments from the board? From the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions, so ordered. Thank you. I guess we go into monthly construction now.
Yes, sir. I have a quick report, and then we'll answer any questions you might have. As you all probably have noted, and Mr. Alford said earlier, summer's gotten off to a start, and we're already looking at the upcoming school year.
That's right.
But our summer projects, as you can see, these 4 that finished, they're going well. We have some others that are nearing completion, and we expect them to be finished before the school year begins. The small summer projects that were listed in the back of the monthly report, they're all underway and near completion as well. Of the larger ongoing projects, Brock Elementary School is progressing well. The interior is painted. Ceiling grid has been installed. Lights are installed. Permanent power is connected. Contractor anticipates starting the air conditioning next week. There's still some exterior work at the ramp and porch system on the exterior, but they plan to be underway with that again this coming week as well. Fifth Ward Junior High, the renovations to the pre-K wing, it's going well. They've done the demolition work. They've already started roughing in the plumbing and the electrical, and they were planning to pour, although I don't know with the rain today, the slab for the small addition to that building. At Madisonville Junior, they're nearly complete. They've got some asphalt paving to do, and they're doing some punch list work in the kitchen and cafeteria. Renovations in the picture kitchen and teacher workroom areas is coming along very well, and that's expected to complete before the school year as well. We've been very focused on the Woodlake Elementary construction project. It has a phase that includes finishing up the gym this summer, and we're keeping a close eye on that phase. The last phase, which is the renovation of Wing 5, is progressing well, but that finishes up in early 2014 per its schedule. We're focused now on looking towards school starting and getting the contractors to get the sites back and ready for school to start. So Sammy and I'll be spending a fair amount of time making sure that everything's buttoned up for school to start as we go forward. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
Thank you, Ms. Tipton. Ms. Mullet.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I haven't seen it myself, but we had dinner with friends, and the word around Slidell is that the gym floor at Slidell High is absolutely beautiful. So, thank you. I can't wait
It
to.
did turn out well, and there's a photograph on the front of your monthly report.
Well, that's the buzz in town.
It's definitely green.
You like green, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Finish, Ms. Mullet. Ms. Bellisario.
Thank you. On North Shore High School, I noticed there were 4 change orders. Is that a total of 7 days
Yes, ma'am.
that it's delayed? Will it be done by the time school starts?
We expect that it will. We've been monitoring that very closely as well. I was out there this afternoon and milling had started on the asphalt in the student parking lot. There have been a fair amount of utilities for them to work around with some of the areas that they are trying to put drainage in. But they do have a schedule. The downpour today was a definite, not a good thing for North Shore today, but they are on schedule to get the asphalt paving going next week and the concrete pours to be done as well. So the engineer's out there once or twice a day, and I've been out there an awful lot as well.
Do I understand the gas lines were a problem with?
There have been a couple of different gas line situations. Early on, they had a conflict that Atmos had to come in and move some of the gas lines, and they worked with us very quickly, and that did cost them a little time up front. And they've also hit some utility lines that maintenance has been very helpful with getting things taken care of very quickly for them. So we continue to work with them and hope for the weather to be on our side for them to get everything closed back up. But I believe that they will make it.
Have a plan B in effect in case we can't use the front of the school?
We've considered that. The front of the school, you can make that turn through there, although you might have, with the buses, to shorten it through that little parking area. But I think that they'll get those areas poured back. Concrete can go in fairly quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Womack, did you have a question?
No, sir, I appreciate you recognizing me. I had to step out of the room. We're already past what I had questions about.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to go back and ask that question?
I missed the business about Carolyn Park. I just wanted to ask Cameron if everything went smooth with that.
Yes, sir, it has gone well. They're finishing up some cap sheet on the smaller classroom addition that's near the road, but it's gone well. They've got the metal up on those mansard roofs, and it's looking very good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for indulging me, Mr. Darman.
No problem, Mr. Womack. Ms. Tipton, just out of general question on roofing projects, it seemed like in the past we had a couple of problems with doing our roofing in the rain. Have we really had any experience negatively this year?
The rain does affect them, and it just, as you know, rain can be spotty. You know, Fifth Ward, they were to finish up coming up into this weekend. I think the rain probably hit them today. It may push them into next week some. Slidell High, they've monitored when it's going to rain, and they've only opened up, you know, smaller amounts sometimes if they think it might rain that day. But everybody's been progressing as well as they can, and they've made good progress.
And we look like we're on schedule for opening a school to where we should be complete with those projects.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Cameron has a lot of strengths, but she has not mastered controlling the rain yet in the school system.
Well, I thought she could handle
If
part
anybody,
of that,
if anybody
you know.
could do it, it would be her, but she
No,
can.
we appreciate that the board and everyone works with us. We do work to get those projects out in the spring and have materials in place. And we push to get the contractors on the jobs as soon as school lets out so that we have the most opportunity to be complete before the end of the
Y'all do an
summer.
excellent job. I was just curious of how all of them were, you know,
It definitely affects
progressing.
the jobs, but yes.
Thank you very
Thank
much for
you.
all your efforts. Thank you. Okay, moving on to business affairs. Ms. Fortenberry.
To consider and take action with respect to adopting a resolution authorizing the advertising for sealed bids for the purchase of general obligation school bonds, Series 2013, of St. Tammany Parish Wide School District Number 12 of the Parish of St. Tammany, State of Louisiana, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. And Grant Sluter of Foley and Udell is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Can I get a motion from the board, please?
Move.
Moved by Ms. Seeley. Mr. Womack seconded. Okay, any questions by board members for Mr. Sluter? Seeing none. Grant, why don't you come on up and give us a little dissertation anyhow?
Very brief. Grant Schluter with Foley Udell Bond Counsel. The amount will be $20 million. This will be the first series of bonds authorized by the voters, the total amount being $135 million. I understand from the superintendent that you will be scheduling a special meeting for Tuesday, August 20th at 11:30 a.m., and that is the date that you will receive the bids. We anticipate delivery on October 1 and the money being available for projects at that time.
And I think we included in your packet the, what the initial monies would be spent for, to get us started on the technology part as well as the security part, and to give some startup money for Cameron to get started on some of the initial projects.
Looks good. Any comments from the public? Seen any questions from the board? I'm sorry again after Grant spoke. Mr. Womack.
You said September 1, availability. Is that what you said?
That would be October 1.
October 1.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Okay. Seeing no other questions from the board, any comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So ordered.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Grant. Moving on to the monthly purchasing report now, Ms. Fortenberry.
The purchasing report is in your packets, and Mr. Stevens is here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions by board members? Seeing none, any comments from the public? We don't have to vote on it, so. Harry, I was just covering myself. I saw you out there. Moving on now to announcements from the president. Ms. Heinz.
Thank you, Mr. Darman. A special board meeting will follow tonight's committee as a whole meeting. The new teacher induction luncheon will be held on Tuesday, July 16th at 11:50 at the Training Technology Center. There will be a reception to honor retirees of the St. Tammany Parish School Board on Thursday, July 18th at 6 p.m. in the atrium. The regular board meeting will be held on Thursday, July 18th at 7 p.m., and it will be followed by a special board meeting for expulsion hearings. Also today, there was significant progress made on the CHS Centennial Bell Tower. This is a project that's being funded by public support. And Mr. Darman, I was hoping you'd tell us a little bit more about what happened today.
Well, thank you, Ms. Heinz. I'll be glad to, and I want to keep this short because I know we got another meeting coming. But we had one of our major steps in erecting the steel structural tower at CHS for our Centennial Tower. That's going to house our bell and our clock tower and everything, and be a focal point at Covington High School, celebrating our 100 years of existence. And it is by great design that the minute that you pass in front of Fielding's funeral home, you can see this bell tower in front of Covington High. So it is absolutely in the perfect location by design. And but I do want to thank Fauntleroy, Latham, Weldon, Barrays Architects, Kyle Kent Construction Company for helping us, Patrick Fabrication for donating the tower and the steel fabrication, and a lot of other people that have donated their time, their efforts, and their money to make this all come about. And once it is complete, it's going to be an absolute beautiful monument in one way, but a connection of the old with the new at Covington High. And Covington High has been such a great part of this community, and it draws from throughout far-reaching in St. Tammany Parish, with 5 junior highs feeding into it. And it is really going to be a nice project that will be dedicated homecoming week at Covington High. So come out and hear the bell ring when we get it done. But thank you, Ms. Heinz.
I might add that if you'd like to contribute to this beautiful tower, you can purchase a brick and have your family's name or whatever you'd like on the brick. But it is beautiful, and it'll also be a nice entryway into Covington from that part of town.
And you can donate a lot more than a brick, too, if you want to. But thank you. You through, Ms. Heinz? Thank you very much. With nothing else to come before the committee, we're adjourned.